seconds.
10 seconds?
Hello,
there we go.
everybody. Welcome to Jenny on the Chopping Block. Today I have a special guest. So I met you, Colton, with Gary V, Tea with Gary V, and we were both like in the community, and it's amazing how just like being in his vortex, like we connect with others that are like-minded. And I just feel that there's a reason why we needed to connect, and I'm happy to be doing this show now to be able to have you as a guest to help inspire, because I know that you have that in you. So I was really looking forward to today. And I'm just curious, my first question to you is, what got you into Gary Vee? Like, how'd you start following him and this whole COVID Tea with Gary Vee experience?
Yeah, that's a great question. It's funny how it happened, actually, because I think I remember the day that I first found Gary Vee, and I think I was up in maybe Orange County at my in-laws. I think I was at the gym, and it was about 6 months after I had transitioned out of the Navy, and I was really having a hard time just figuring out like what I'm supposed to do, because I have all these extremely high expectations for myself. I know I've been through a lot, so I expect to succeed immediately. So I got out of the Navy after 8 years, and my experience in the Navy had nothing to do with what I may be interested in when I get out, because I've done like combat deployments to the Middle East, and I was doing counterterrorism stuff and basically counter narcotics, counter piracy, counter drug stuff out there. So I came back from deployments, and I'm like, oh, what do I not want to be? A cop. I don't want to ruin people's days anymore. So on the back end, I was like, what do I want to do? What do I want to do? And I'm looking up videos of finding your passion, and a lot of them are just too like Navy SEAL-ish for me, which is like, you just got to force yourself to do it every day. And I think there's some truth to that, but Gary scratches the surface a lot deeper. And he also has like these random conversations with people. So like at his shows, people are asking him questions, and I'm like, oh, that's a question that I would ask. So that's kind of what like drew me towards him, was just that he's so available, yet not at the same time. It's like someone's probably going to ask a question that you have, and that's kind of why I've been drawn to him. It was really just me trying to figure out what I want to do, and I'm still trying to figure it out, but his message just like spoke to me on this one day, and ever since I was like, oh, guess I'm watching Gary Vee for life now.
Literally. Wow.
It's funny you mention that, because he always talks about serendipity, and I think like we were in the comments one day, and there's 4,000 people on the video, and we're just like, hey, what's up? And I'm like, oh, comment on something. And I'm like, oh, whatever. So it's just funny how it works out like that, like you said.
Absolutely. Yeah. And it's like attracts like. I'm big into that, and just vibrations, and just trying to inspire people. And I just want to thank you for your service and for sharing that with us, and just being, transparent to say like where you're at now and your journey throughout that. So how has that been for you getting, so now you've transitioned out of the Navy, and how's that looking now for you? Like stepping into maybe some of your passions and things that light you up?
Yeah, that's a great question. It's been challenging. And so I tried to get out of my comfort zone through watching Gary Vee and everything. So I try to do, not daily, but I try and give updates to like my veteran friends. And because it's not easy. I mean, I think it's, let's see, I went through a transition course through the military. So this is information's from like August. I think they said 70 or 80% of people in the military don't retire. So that's only 20% of people who serve in the military are going to go on to retire. Yet there's so much pressure to stay in the military and do 20 years. And for me, I was like, well, I could kind of see past that. Like I see people who have gotten out, and I don't know if that's the path that I want to go down, because if I don't change like what I do every few years, I'll just get complacent. And that's me personally. For someone else, it could be completely different. But for me, that's like
entrepreneurish.
Exactly. Yeah. But but here's the thing. So I would, I would be thinking about that, and then I was like, all right, what's the thing that scares me the most? And it's getting out of the military because it's a steady paycheck. I know that I could retire. This was at like my 8th year mark. I got out right after 8 years. So I'm like, I know I can retire in 12 years. What's the scariest thing that I could do for me to grow as a person? And it was turn down basically a retirement when I'm 39 and try and figure it out after that. Now I did stay in the reserves, so I'm doing the reserves.
Oh, wow.
But you won't see that until you're like 60. So, but for me, it was like you retire at 39, you're getting whatever after that. I was like, am I doing it for the money, or am I doing it for the lifestyle that I think I want to live, or am I doing it because it makes me happy? So I was like finding that I wasn't really doing it because I'm passionate about the military. Like I loved what I did, but I wasn't like passionate about it to the point where I wanted to deploy again, because I didn't want to deploy again. I did 3 and I was like, I'm over it. So it's really been challenging, especially because there's so much noise, and I try to stop listening to it, but there's so much noise and pressure of people asking you what you're going to do when you get out of the military. And me putting expectations on myself, it's been very challenging. So when I first got out, I was like, okay, what do I need to do to succeed? So I was like, all right, let me listen to everyone who's in my life, and let me try and get a sales job because I need to learn how to sell. And I took a sales job, I think right before Christmas, we kind of signed, and I was like, yeah, I'll start after the new year. And I lasted there 40 days, I think. But here's the funny part.
It's just like, I get it.
But I think I worked only 1 full week, because with the holidays and everything, I'm almost positive I worked there less than 30 total days, like went into work. So I was like, what do I wasn't passionate about what I was selling. So I was like, all right, I went in one day, and this is completely uncharacteristic of me because I've never quit a job before, really, because I didn't like it. It was just like, I'm leaving for the Navy. I can't work with you guys anymore. So I went in and I was like, listen, and they had a really good sales team. I was like, you guys are your top global performers in San Diego here for their whole company as top performers in the globe. And I'm not going to help you guys get to where you want to be this year because you have a top performing team. And I'm not really passionate about like what I'm selling. So I left, and it was like basically the best breakup that I've ever had in my life. I mean, I still talk to the guys. They're really good dudes, but I just wasn't passionate about it. So
I love that.
So
I can totally relate. That's awesome. Yeah. It's so freeing to be able to do that. Especially after being so disciplined. And, I don't know about you, but before I quit my first job, I was always early, first one there, last one to leave, would put up with everything. And then once I got a taste of like, I don't like this, I'm out. Like, it was kind of addicting.
It's really challenging. It takes a different, like your wiring has to be different to be like, to give people advice and be like, if you're not happy, then don't do it. But it takes different wiring to actually convince yourself to do that. Like, I'm not happy. What am I doing? But I think there's a lot of emotions that get in the way. Like, should I quit? Is this going to benefit me long-term? Like, there's a lot of contemplating. I'm very reasonable through my decision-making. So like, I'm using my GI Bill right now too, to get my grad degree. Awesome. So I was like, okay. Yeah. So I'm like, okay, so I have that at least to kind of keep me going, a little bit of income.
What do you get in your grad degree in?
Organizational leadership.
Wow.
I'm sorry. My undergrad was business administration and entrepreneurship. Yeah. It's through. Don't laugh.
No, I'm thinking, I don't know if you know what I'm thinking, but
I probably am. Like, yeah.
You're an entrepreneur.
But just because you have the education doesn't mean you're an entrepreneur. You know what I mean? So in my mind, that's me being reasonable. I know that I am, but until I take a step back in a few years and I'm like, oh, wow, look what I've created, I'm going to be like keeping my nose down. But yeah, so organizational leadership, I'm doing it online. It's been mostly online through national university. They're out here in San Diego, but they're all over the country. And like their platform has made me wildly successful to myself because it's given me the ability to focus on one class because their classes are one per month. So
wow, it's amazing.
It's one per month, and it's just, hey, you got to work your butt off for this whole month. But I mean, it's the upside of it is awesome because I'm much better at focusing on one thing rather than taking 6 finals a week. I don't want to burn myself out.
Yeah, that's amazing. I love that. I didn't know that. That's great. I'm happy for you.
So to answer your question, long story, it's been super challenging. I'm still trying to figure it out.
Okay. Well, so now what have you been doing for work? Because I know you said you love it. Like you just got hired right before COVID started. And I want to hear more about that and why you love it.
Yeah. So the person who I'm working for, it's just to give them a shout out. It's called High Tide Coronado, and it's a pizza spot in the town that I live in. They do pizza, sandwiches, salads, and then they also do delivery of liquor and beer and wine. So they're doing pretty well right now. They're hanging in there. But the owner of that, I met. He was a bartender at the local bar that I would patronize every once in a while, and we met. And then he was like, "Oh, I own High Tide Coronado." So I'm like, "Oh, okay. Well, my wife and me are getting married in November. Like, do you do any catering on the side?" And he ended up catering our rehearsal dinner. We had like a taco bar because we got married out in San Diego. So we had a taco bar, and then he hit me up later, and we've talked a lot since then. But he hit me up later. He's like, "Hey, I know that you have a degree in business administration. I'm looking to maybe." And I hate to say business development, but he just wanted to kind of help his business, like tie up some loose ends, like make a little bit of changes to make it easier from the employees. I'm like, oh, well, I could probably do that. I worked in a restaurant before too. So I was like, yeah, why not? I'll help you out. So I started working for him in March, right before all this stuff. And then bam, shutdown happens. And then basically the whole rest of the town is shut down. But the health department is like, well, it's not a restaurant. Mm-hmm. He's like, your spot isn't zoned to be a restaurant. It's only takeout and pickup and delivery. So wow. You guys are good for now. So it's like
silver lining blessing. Yeah.
Basically, yeah.
And the fact wow, that's amazing.
And it's been like work has been steady. I mean, we've had a lot of business, and we're extremely fortunate for the community because one, the boss gives back. Or the owner gives back to the community tremendously, but the community has also stepped up and helped us out too. So, so we've been okay, and I'm loving it. I mean, like I think hearing myself say it makes it more believable for me. But like I truly love, mm-hmm. I truly love going there. I make pizzas, and I make really good pizzas there. And I've made them for like my family when I'm not at work, and they're like, "Oh my God, this is the best pizza I've ever had." And I'm like, "Well, it's his ingredients. I'm just making it." So, but like for me, it's been just so freeing for me because it's like I turned down basically a guaranteed paycheck to make, started out making $13 an hour. So that's about the most uncomfortable thing that I could do, and looking at it right now, I'm like, man, I'm kind of crazy, but like, I think it's like a slingshot thing. Like you kind of have to take a step back in order to get where you want to go. But it was hard for me to deal with the fact that I wasn't going to be making as much as I was when I was in the military. And not that I think I deserve to make that much, but it's like, your lifestyle, once you start making more, you adjust your lifestyle to it. And listening to Gary, he's like, stop flexing, doing all this stuff. So I'm like, okay, well, I bought a new truck. Like probably half of the people in the military do. I bought a truck while I was in the military and I sold it. And for me, that was the start of like the avalanche of me, like figuring out what I'm actually going to do and what it takes to like succeed in my own mind. So
it's so powerful.
It's been crazy.
Yeah, it's amazing. I love that so much.
Yeah. And I mean, I'm just so thankful for the local business owner too. His name's Tom. And I mean, great guy. And me and my wife love him to death. He's a friend of ours too. But I mean, it's just so funny how serendipity works. It's like I would have never thought I would have gotten out of the military, been making pizzas and love it right now. So.
Mm-hmm. And I always think about, like, me and my dad were talking about it yesterday, like how leadership affects like the attitude, and it's just so important in business. And I'm sure, do you plan on maybe having your own business one day?
I do. And I've had business plans, and I know, Gary's like, you don't need a plan. I love to plan because planning's in my DNA from my 8 years in the military. We don't go on a mission unless we plan for it. And I taught that for 3 years. I ended up being an instructor for the Navy too. So like, if we don't plan, that's like the most vulnerable thing we could do. So I like to plan even just a little bit. Like, so I've had like different business plans for a couple things. I had one for a startup coffee shop / coffee truck.
Me too.
Oh, no way.
Yeah.
But I was like, well, what could I do it like as a trailer? Could I pull it with my truck? So I've had a business plan kind of for that. What are some other things? I was making these, like, I call them luxury, but they're just like kind of nice gifts. They're cigar boxes. I would make them for my friends and send them to them. And it's basically just, order cigars online. They're a little bit less expensive. And then I like get boxes and white paper that goes in it. So they like cigars go in the box, tie a ribbon around it. It costs like, I don't know, $6 to ship them, but I'm like sending them to people for gifts.
Do you still do that?
Not as much because I guess smoking is frowned upon with the whole COVID stuff going on. So I've kind of like,
got it.
So I haven't sent them as much. But yeah, I mean, long story long, again, I do plan on having my own business. I'm just not sure what I'm passionate about, because I think anyone could create a business, but like if you want to endure, which is like the whole point of having a business is to be around for as long as you can. Like you got to be passionate about it because you get burnt out. I mean, working 18, 20 hours a day. I did it in the military, but I mean, I wasn't risking like a huge amount of capital. I was just kind of, that was what you had to do to get the job done. But it's a little bit different to be an entrepreneur, I think.
Yeah, but I think it's a little similar too, in a sense. Like I used to joke, I mean, I don't want to compare the restaurant industry to the military, but sometimes it feels like I could relate it somewhat to what my knowledge of it.
Yeah, it's a beast. And I was thinking that the other day. It's funny you bring that up. I was like,
well, I'm happy that you didn't make me feel bad for thinking that, because I'm like,
no, not at all. I mean, it is. I mean, you got to stick to a schedule. Like you got to be at the place at your appointed time, or else, someone else is going to get screwed over.
And you have to be really tough.
You do. You got to have your head on straight. You have to be able to compartmentalize and prioritize. It's like, it is very similar. And I was just thinking that the other day. It's so funny you mentioned that, because I was thinking, why don't more veterans start off in like the food service industry or the restaurant industry? Because there are a lot of parallels. So
wow,
I think I need to talk about that more too, because I don't think the restaurant industry is as glorious. I don't think it's very glorious. So people coming out of the military, I think like me, I think they have these expectations of them to get a better job than they had when they were in. So I don't think there's a lot of people who get out, looking to go into the restaurant industry.
Yeah.
I just happened to stumble upon it and I'm really good at it right now. But I mean, I don't think there's as many people who would make those calls like I would.
Yeah. Well, that's a good point that you bring up, because maybe that will bring light to some people who, know that maybe that would be a spot for them to explore.
Yeah, it's fast paced. It's changing all the time. And I mean,
with people. I mean, I'm a chef. I'm a bartender. I'm a waitress. I'm a host. I'm a dishwasher. Name it. So I get to but when you're dealing with people, I mean, especially with their food,
Yeah.
it's fun.
Well, yeah. And I mean, these guys over here, I mean, everyone I work with just loves they love the idea of creating something. It's like I'm taking raw ingredients, turn it into something. It's kind of like the business process if you think about it. I'm taking raw materials and I'm turning it into something else. But you're doing it with food, and that's, it's really rewarding. Taking a picture of like a pizza and then people liking it.
It's like, for me, it's meditation. Like, I don't think about anything when I'm cooking. Like, I go to this place that's just so peaceful. Like, my mind's clear. And then the art of, like you said, it's an art. Like, you're creating. So I love that part of it too.
That's awesome. I need to start looking at it more like that.
Yeah. And then I wanted to ask you, now that we're on the topic, do you have any other, like, your favorite food or your favorite recipe? Can you share some of those pizza secrets?
So I don't have like the ingredients list in front of me, but some of the pizzas that we have there are just, I mean, they're not far out. And I'm from Connecticut, right outside New Haven.
Oh my God.
To me, that's a pizza
rolls, favorite food.
I worked in a seafood restaurant for 5 years in North Branford. It's called Supreme Seafood. I think they have the best seafood in Southern Connecticut.
Do you know Westbrook? Is that a place? Westbrook?
Westbrook is on the shoreline, a little bit further away from me. North Branford is like one town away from the ocean, basically. But I think you could get to Westbrook within a half hour, maybe.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Connecticut lobster rolls. Yes.
I know. Check them out. They're awesome. And the pizza, if you haven't heard of like Frank Pepe's or Sally's Pizza or modern pizza, that's the stuff I grew up eating. So, cool. And I only kind of tell you the backstory because the pizza that we make here kind of reminds me of it a little bit. It's going to be
that's super
it's
interesting.
It's a little different. The crust is different, and you can get into all that stuff. But I mean, but we have a sweet chili pie pizza. I think that's my favorite. It's a house-made sweet chili sriracha sauce. That's the pizza sauce. So then you get cheese. Then you get, let's see if I could remember, a little bit of cheddar, bacon, jalapenos, grilled chicken, chopped onions, and I think that's it. If I'm forgetting something, everyone's going to be like, "Oh, you can't even remember the ingredients on a pizza."
You put ranch sauce on it?
You could. With some of our pizzas, we drizzle ranch on the top. So
awesome. That's so dope. Yeah. I'm totally recreating that. I'll give you credit.
You should.
Don't worry.
No, do it. Take it and run with it. And in Connecticut, some of the best pizza I think that I've ever personally had. And it wasn't the pizza itself. It was like the concept of the pizza. It was a mashed potato topped pizza. And I think it had chives and like sour cream. I had it when I was like 18, and I think I had it at a place called Bar Pizza or Bar. It's in New Haven, Connecticut. If you look up Bar, New Haven, Connecticut.
Awesome.
I think it was kind of a pizzeria type of food spot.
I talk about Connecticut and the food scene there with the Monsignor at the school I'm working at.
Nice.
Because we're cooking for 8 brothers there during COVID now. And he like misses, because on the weekends they would, they all go their own way, and he would go to Connecticut a lot to visit friends. And so I don't know, something keeps reminding me like, Connecticut, what's up? Like, I want to get there. Yeah. This is all over. And
have you been there?
Oh yeah. Yeah. But there is a good food scene there. Definitely.
Yeah, I think it's underrated, but I mean, I think it's the experience, because if you're going there just for the food, some people would be like, I've had better food, but like, where else can you hop on a boat and like go down a river and then end up at like a place where you can get a lobster roll, and then you're next to a brewery too, so the experience is really fun. Yeah,
I think that's a big part of, like, for me, I talked to my dad about this. He's an executive chef, so I've been with him my whole life. But I met in the kitchen. Mm-hmm. Yeah. But we talk a lot about, like, that's huge. Like, if people have an experience with food, mm-hmm. it just brings you back, like, to a memory or a feeling. And there's so much power to that. I'm with you on that.
Yeah. And it's funny you mentioned that too, because, and I watched Triple D religiously with Guy.
Yeah.
And I remember one episode, I just was like doing backflips. I was watching it with my wife, and it was a place called Bob's Clam Hut in Maine. Ooh. And I've been there. It's right next to Kittery Trading Post. And whenever I would go up to my uncle's cottage in Maine with, taking a family trip, I always remember stopping at like Kittery Trading Post. I think I would buy like a Maglite flashlight because I would always lose them. So my dad would buy me like a flashlight, and we would stop at Bob's Clam Hut. And it literally is a hut next to the parking lot of Kittery Trading Post, which is basically like an REI, but like a local one up there. So that I saw it and I was like, oh my God, I have no idea how good the food was, but I just have this nostalgia of going up on a 6-hour drive, to my uncle's cottage. And I just remember, yeah, like you said, it's the experience.
And some of those seafood huts are like, we have one here in Oyster Bay in Long Island, New York. And
yeah,
it's this like little old, some of the best food comes out of these spots. And you're like,
yeah,
what is going on?
Yeah. So you're right across Long Island Sound, right?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So New Haven, basically, I could look across Long Island Sound and see New York, and my town is right next to that.
Yep. Yeah. I always try to think geographically when I'm looking at, like, what am I looking at? Like, if I have to bring out the map, I do.
Same.
Yeah. So we're talking about all this. I do want to ask you, and we have a little funny story about this one. I want to ask you, if you could have a superpower, what would it be, or what would it not be?
Yeah, that is funny. I always reason through things a little bit backwards, but I try and hit it from all angles. Basically, if I know that I struggle with people's judgment, or I used to. So if you were to ask me this while I was growing up, I'd probably say that I wanted to be able to read people's minds and know what they're thinking, so that I could know what they were thinking, I guess.
Yeah.
But now that's exactly the opposite of what it would be. I don't want to know what people are thinking, and not because I don't care, because I do care what certain people think, but I just think that sometimes people are just so narrow-minded and insensitive to other people's thoughts. Like, your experience with food is completely different than mine. So if I didn't like lobster rolls and you were like, oh, lobster rolls, I'd be like, oh, I hate lobster rolls. But I think you have to try something like 11 times in order for yourself physiologically to actually decide that you don't like it, instead of not liking it emotionally. So something like that is how I reason through things. So it's just, I don't know. It would probably be to fly, because I like flying. Yeah.
Wait, do you like lobster rolls?
I'd love lobster rolls.
Okay. Yeah. Not that I would be okay if you didn't, but I'm like, wait, does he hate lobster rolls? I'm just kidding.
Well, some people don't, but it's just like, I don't know. Some things
I get what you're saying. That was deep. Like, I was like, oh shit, it's so true. Wow. Yeah.
It is. It's like, why do I not like this? Like, is it, to go even deeper, is my inability to communicate because this person reminds me of someone that I maybe don't like or had a bad experience with in the past? Am I putting my guard up because of that? So I just am fascinated by the human mind, but
yeah. Do you read a lot?
Not as much as I would like to, but I do.
Everything you're talking about, I'm reading a couple of books right now, and it's kind of reminding me of that.
Yeah. Which book is it?
I'm not sure. I'm trying to remember. I know I'm reading Boundaries, Think and Grow Rich.
Oh, nice.
The Power of the Subconscious Mind.
The Power of the Subconscious Mind.
Yeah.
I feel like I might have that one, actually. Is that a book about not addiction, but addictive habits?
The Power of the Subconscious Mind?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
I feel like I have it. I'll have to
I'm thinking
check
it's
if I got a
more,
bookshelf.
I think what we were talking about though, I've read in maybe Boundaries. I'm not sure. It's like,
I
you know,
haven't read
and just like
Boundaries.
realizing different triggers and like your old brain and like what maybe it's just it's just a made up thing and a thought, you know, in your head. Like it doesn't have, it's not that way, you know.
Yeah. So I think what helped me also was when I was teaching for the military, we had to be extremely emotionally intelligent. Like, uh, for example, if we were teaching something and we we would kind of presume that some of the stuff we were teaching might have some emotional triggers with the students because we we look at the different aspects of how people learn and stuff like that and barriers to learning. So if someone has like a meltdown, maybe it's because of something they experienced in their childhood and what we were teaching kind of triggered that. So it is funny you mentioned that. Yeah, it's some deep stuff. I mean,
Wow.
really deep.
So how would you deal with that if that would come up?
Uh, try and take the attention off of
Boom.
that person.
Boom.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's
But if someone got up in the middle of the class and stormed out of the classroom, I'd probably say to the class like, "Hey, just so you all know, so you're aware, we all have different things that are going on in our life. So there's no need to judge anybody for how they're trying to handle the stuff that they've experienced in their life because everyone handles it differently, you know?"
absolutely.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's challenging. I mean, it's hard to redirect someone's focus from staring at someone who's maybe having a meltdown to like, hey, it's okay. Like everyone deals with stuff differently. So, but if you want to go even deeper, I think the military has a ton of studies out on like the physiological effects of like stress and stress inoculation. And once you have stress, you have like a sympathetic dump of basically all like your like basically it's fight or flight. So it can cause like, I don't know, it can cause you to like pee your pants or stuff like that. And you won't even know it. Like if you're in a combat situation and you get like start getting shot at, some people have like, I don't know, had accidents in their pants and like they don't realize it. And then after they're like, oh my God, I peed my pants. Like I'm so embarrassed. Like that's not anything to be embarrassed about. That's a physiological effect of stress inoculation. And that's basically your body trying to get rid of everything unnecessary that is in you right now in order for you to survive. So, and it's the same thing if like someone gets into a car crash and they have like a superhuman experience. It's
oh my gosh. Wow. Yeah. This elderly man hit my car when I was younger. Who knows? I was a young driver. Whose fault it was, it doesn't matter. But time slowed down. And like when we got out, you know, I was really worried about him because he was like 90 something years old. And then the person that was with me, but I saw that he had peed his pants and I was like, oh my gosh, that's like, so it's terrible. I don't know why I just thought of that.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's literally anatomy and physiology. That's like what your body does when you're under an extreme amount of stress. So it's just trying to survive. But now I'm not saying I go around and pee my pants.
Well, you're not cool unless you'll pee it.
So, but it's stuff like that people don't think about. And I just try and think of why stuff happens and then really scratch the surface on it. Like, you know, usually it's sympathetic.
Wow, you're brilliant. That's really cool. I'm really happy that I got to know you better and that you were able to share this with all of us. Really appreciate it. And I just want to end with if there's anything on your heart or that you want to share further, or if you have any tips or tools that you've picked up during this time that you could help. I know there's probably someone out there that could use more words of wisdom from you.
Oh, pressure's on.
No, I'm just saying. You know what's weird? When I was interviewed and someone asked me that, I was like, I don't know what to say.
Yeah.
But then I'm like, okay, you know, take your time, or if you don't have anything, that's okay too.
No, I do. And it's odd because like usually I could read the room and see like what people have responded to and try and figure out what else I have to talk about. But I guess switching things up a little bit, relationships with people in the military, oh my gosh, this is like some crazy stuff. It's I've had some terrible relationships and been like left on deployment and stuff like that. And it's not a sob story, but it's, I feel like some people who are having relationships with people who are in the military and they don't know anything about the military, it can be challenging for them because sometimes people in the military can be a little bit damaged. And I say that in the most like appreciative way, because we just kind of get hardened and it's like, suck it up. And I grew up on tough love. My parents were split up when I was growing up. So I already kind of had a little bit, but my wife has had a completely different experience in her life. So it's like, sometimes I shut her out and I close off to people when that's probably the worst thing that I can do. So it's been challenging. It's been challenging with that as well. But I just try and explain to her like, hey, please just be patient with me, because I know that I'm a little maybe damaged in my ways of communicating and responding to different things. But it's really just knowing yourself and just trying to this kind of sounds corny, but being the best version of yourself, but really, really taking a step back and looking at the way you think about things. I know it, think about the way you think about things. It's really deep.
And your language, like the language for yourself and what you're saying, because that's like so powerful. Like, I don't think you're damaged at all.
I mean, you don't know me that well. I'm just kidding. No, but it really comes down to
I think your experience.
Yeah, and how good do you want your relationships to be? If you want them to be really good relationships, you have to learn how to communicate. You have to learn how to communicate with yourself, how you communicate with other people, and how other people have to communicate with you. Because I'm, having conversations with my wife, I'm like, I'm not mad. I'm just kind of angry at something else that happened. I'm not mad at you, although I might seem like I'm taking it out on you. I might not realize it. So just, if I am doing that, just please deliver it to me like, hey, are you mad? Like, did I do anything to aggravate you? And I'll probably be like, no, I'm mad at this guy who blew a stop sign 10 hours ago or something like that.
It's funny you say that, because my friend always talks about that, the car stuff, and it's weird because I've been not dealing with that, but I've been experiencing that a little bit, being, the passenger. And I always try, and somebody taught me this, always trying to think, instead of that person's whatever, an idiot or whatever, you always got to think, what's going on? Are they okay?
Yeah.
And maybe I'm being whatever, but you never know and you always want to send love either way.
Yeah, absolutely. And I try and relate to driving because everybody drives. So more than likely that's going to be something that people can relate to. But yeah, you have no idea. You don't know if their, parents just passed away or something. I'm like you. If someone blows a red light, I'm like, I can't imagine what is going through that person's head.
Yeah.
Maybe they're texting.
Yeah.
And maybe they're
probably
distracted like that.
In any event,
But I've drove before and I'm like, were any of the lights I just went through green? You space out sometimes.
That's awesome.
So I'm just like, oh my gosh. Yeah. To me, I'll leave everyone with this. It's just kind of think about the way you think about things. And challenge them. If it doesn't add you value, like it didn't add me value to drink excessively and have bad drinking habits in the military, but it was just a habit, It might not be addiction, but it may be addiction. But looking at that and being like, okay, well, is it just my bad habits or do I actually need help? I did 2017 sober because I wanted to prove to myself that I can control my unhealthy drinking habits so that I could really fully invest emotionally in my relationship. So, but you need to think about things like that. It's I'm always thinking about me first. Is it me? Do I need to change my way of thinking, in order for me to get to where I want to be in life? So.
Wow. And how's your wife been? And do you have any kids?
No kids. No, we just got married in November before everything happened. But she's doing well. She's working. She typically works from home, but she travels quite a bit for work. So I try and travel with her. So we haven't been doing much of that. So
Probably nice to have each other home. And
it is, but it's challenging because it's like we're not used to spending this much time together. So I'm like, okay, I need to make sure I'm not, getting on her nerves.
oh, I doubt you are.
Inadvertently though, because she works from home, and
I get what you're saying.
when I'm looking at her when she's home working, I'm like, yeah, but you're home. She's like, but I'm at work. I'm like, yeah, but you're home. But I need to do better at not distracting her as much because she's like in between sales calls or something like that. So I'm like, stay focused. I'll keep myself busy. So it's weird. I mean, you have to think about things like that. It's how are we going to get through this together? And it's by us being reasonable with each other. So
well, I'm happy you got to have your wedding before all of this. And
I know.
Yeah, give her a big hug for me.
I will. I'm devastated. My sister was supposed to get married next month in June, and she had to postpone it till next year. So,
all right, it gives her more time to plan. And
that's true.
I know every bride that I know, every party I've been in, like the brides get real stressed out. So maybe they have more time. It would, be better for everyone.
That's true.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right, Colton. Well, I can't wait for Tea with Gary Vee tomorrow. I'm sure we'll both be on there. And I'd love to connect and get to know you guys better, and really appreciate you, as I'm sure you know. And to everyone else, I hope you have a remarkable Thursday. This week is going by fast. Woo!
Sure has.
So I love you all, and I will see you guys all tomorrow. Ciao for now.
Bye.
Bye.